Hi JD here, how are you guys? Welcome to another Thursday get together. I'm going to make this one short today because we've got our 2-day event on tomorrow and Saturday on the Gold Coast, so you've got plenty of time then to ask me any questions. So what we'll do is that we'll make this a relatively short one, and then you've got 2 full days to ask me any questions. Silly for us to go doing the teleconference this morning after this webinar presentation, because the thing is that we've got 2 full-on days that you can ask me any questions you like, no matter whether you're coming to our event or whether you are watching on Facebook Live. We've got a pretty good roll-up, but I realise that there are some people who unfortunately just can't make it, and so therefore they'll be watching on Facebook Live. We will be kicking off at what time? 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we go through till late in the afternoon. And then we let everybody go home and put their makeup on and lippy and all that sort of stuff, and then we go out for dinner. And my crew has organised a Thai restaurant which is very close to where the event is. The event's at the Mantra on View in Surfers Paradise. Let me see who's on here. Give me a second. G'day, Hemi, how are you? Let me see what the other question was there. Let me see. Okie dokie. Okay, no, everything was fine. So look, what I wanted to touch on is something that's I guess really top of mind because it is tomorrow, my 2-day event. I've got to duck into the hotel today, to the Mantra on View, I think they call it, yep, and just run through the process of checking the room out and checking the seating and the the lighting, the big screen and all the stuff that goes with it, the catering, and it just made me think, look, I don't think enough of you guys are actually doing the same thing. I don't think enough of you are running events. And whilst there's no question, I mean, this is different because they're our people and part of our club. But there's no doubt that it is harder to get people to events these days because of this. Look at this, it's too easy for you to be wherever you are at the moment. You could be having a coffee in a cafe at the moment and you're watching me on this with a little earpiece in. So I realise that it's very, very convenient these days for us to get our learnings and our information from just our telephones. We understand that, so it's harder to fill rooms than what it was when Anthony Robbins was doing this 20 years ago. But nonetheless, it still is a very, very valuable technique, a very valuable tool, and if you're not using it, you should think about it. I guess in our instance, whenever we feel that we might like to fill some spots in our coaching program because people have come up to the end of their tenure, guess what we do? Just hold an event. And these days, I've discovered that evening events are much better than daytime events because more people are able to come, at least in the sort of demographic that we're looking for. We're looking for business owners that are doing a certain turnover. And those business owners doing that certain turnover find it a bit difficult to give up a day or 2 days, but certainly even a day, and come and listen to whoever might be speaking. As brilliant as I might think I am, they've got meetings, they've got commitments at work, they've got staff that they've got to pay, and so they've got to be there. And so what we tend to do now is that we have evening events that run from 6 till 9, and perhaps you may have even been to one of these, and that might have been where you signed up to our program. And this comes to mind because only yesterday I sent off a marketing plan to a new client who has come on board, and they're wanting to franchise a retail concept. So they've been very successful themselves with a retail concept, and they've taken a deep breath and thought, you know what, rather than working in the business, let's work on the business. Why don't we create a franchise of this particular system? Because it's the same old story. If John McGrath had not made money out of buying and renovating and selling his first apartment like 30 or something years ago, then he wouldn't have continued doing that. But that's what happened. I saw John McGrath on stage on one occasion and some time back, and he said, look, the reason he got into real estate, and in case you don't know who I'm talking about, John McGrath is quite an icon in the real estate game. And he said, look, I got into it because when I was young in my 20s, I decided that I would not do the overseas junket or the cruise. I would actually put my money into buying an apartment. I think it was in Surrey Hills in Sydney. And let's say, I forget the numbers now, but it was $60,000 at the time. This was 30 odd years ago. He spent $10,000 doing it up and then sold it for $100,000 and made a tidy profit. And that was all happening within 6 months. So he thought to himself, this model's all right, I might give this a shot again. So then he did it again, and the same result, and again, and again, and again, and that's how he built his real estate empire. So these people who have been in the retail game for some time, it's in the health and wellbeing sector, they thought, well, listen, we're doing pretty well out of this. Why don't we actually see if we can franchise this? And we sit back then and watch the money roll in. And so therefore I've just put together a pretty comprehensive marketing plan on how I think they should go about marketing the franchise opportunity. And surprise, surprise, guess what? I've got events in there. And of course I've got, podcasts, and I've got webinars in there, and I've got direct mail campaigns and all that sort of stuff. But what I've said to them is that if they're looking for X number of franchisees in Sydney, and let's say there's a finite number because they break it up geographically. So let's say there's a finite number of half a dozen, and half a dozen in Melbourne and half a dozen in Brisbane. And then in country towns, they have one in Dubbo and one in Shepparton and one in Bendigo. Then why don't you just simply hold evening events, invite people who are strong prospects. So you just don't want anyone in the room. In their instance, because it's an alternative health product, it's in the health and wellbeing sector, that it makes sense for them to particularly invite people who are interested in alternative health, because there's a good chance that they would be interested in going into a retail sector that has something to do with their likes and their beliefs, than it would be someone who, for argument's sake, was a carpenter, or was a lawn mowing guy. Okay. And so therefore they will be chasing the likes of naturopaths and physiotherapists and people who, generally speaking, are into alternative health. Okay, so it might be someone who might be an acupuncturist, and they see this as an incredible opportunity to actually not only be still involved in what they love, but make money out of it by having a franchise out on the streets. Now, I haven't had feedback yet because the particular member has only just received my marketing plan yesterday, but I had actually, couched this subject with him, a couple of weeks ago when we spoke, and he thought it was a great idea. And I'm hoping that he will do it, because guess what? If he gets 5 people in the room, just 5 people in the room, he's going to be selling once to many. And if you're door knocking at the moment, or you're selling one-to-one, like I used to do, by the way, then I think you might like to think about scaling that. And everything we think of these days, we think of, okay, well, how do we scale it? And in this instance, he may get 10 in the room, he may get 15, he might get 50. So can you imagine that if this particular business runs a dedicated Facebook campaign, and it was targeted at people who are interested in health and wellbeing, because remember, Facebook is pretty laser targeted, so there's a very good chance that there's a lookalike audience out there that he'll be able to tap into with his ads only appearing in front of them, which would be people, predominantly female, who might be over 30, because he wants them to have money, obviously, to buy his franchise, and maybe in the health and wellbeing sector. So you pour that info into Facebook, and they'll soon come back to you and give you a lookalike audience. And then your ad only appears in front of them. How good is that? It's just crazy. I mean, when you think about spraying bullets on TV and radio and newspaper like the old days, and even many people still do it today, you just shake your head and think, oh my God, thank you for Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube and everything else goes with it, LinkedIn. So therefore, that's what I'm suggesting he does, and then he themes it a tapas dinner. Just call it a tapas dinner. It's an evening tapas dinner. And the interesting thing I want to mention to you is that he doesn't have to tell them much more than the overall concept. Because I've had another couple of clients in the last week who I've been talking to about doing the same thing. And I've said to them, look, Tupperware was not really silly, and they still are doing it. And so is a lot of the, nutrimedics and skincare people and all this sort of stuff. They're still doing it. They might put it under the guise of a home party, or it might be a lingerie party. I think the women get into that sort of thing. I haven't held a lingerie party lately, so I'm not familiar with that. But the thing is that you don't want to give them too much information. You want to intrigue people to come to your event by saying something like, are you in the health and wellbeing sector, which is exploding at the moment, particularly the alternative health and wellbeing sector, which is naturopath and acupuncture and stuff like that, and chiropractors, stuff like that. Okay, so that's what we talk about when we talk about the alternative health and wellbeing sector. If you're in that sector and you enjoy it, how would you like to run your own business or own your own business in that sector, where you can, work as many days a week as you want, you can earn up to this amount of dollars, and you can play golf on Friday. How would that be for you? Would that be attractive? Well, if it is, then you just click the link on this Facebook ad, register for our event coming up on Thursday night at 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock at the Bendigo RSL Club, and we'll give you dinner. It's a tapas dinner, and you're going to find out how you can own your own business for as low as bloomp, and earn up to this, work 4 days a week and play golf on Friday. And the reason that comes to mind is I was saying to this particular member that I had a company on some years ago, and they were called Tile Rescue. And as the name would imply, they have a franchise business where you ring them up and they send a guy out in a van and he cleans your kitchen tiles or your laundry tiles or your bathroom tiles. And I said, okay, fair enough. And he wanted to sell franchises for $35,000 at the time. And of course, as you know, the franchising game means that he also takes a clip off each sale, whether it's 5% or 6%, whatever it may be. And he'd heard me doing one of these spiels about selling once to many. And he went off and decided to put this campaign together for himself. And he came back a month later and said, JD, so much for that whole, sell once to many thing, getting people to come out of their house at night time. That is impossible. I said, what? He said, it's impossible. I did everything you mentioned and it just didn't work. I said, well, what did you do? He said, well, I just put the Facebook ads on. I even in country towns bought some radio ads. Let me have a look at them, I said. Well, I will give you the vocal for what the radio ad was, but essentially the Facebook ad was much the same. And it said, do you sort of hate your boss and you're sick and tired of making money for someone else and you'd love to own your own business? Well, guess what? Come along to the Dubbo RSL at 6 o'clock on Thursday night, and I'm going to show you how to clean tiles and how, yes, this is where it went, right? I'm going to teach you how to clean tiles and how to actually invest in your own business where you get to clean tiles. And needless to say, he had one person turn up to most of his events, and it was him. Nobody wakes up this morning and goes, you know what? I want to throw in my bank manager job, or I want to, stop being, if you like, a courier driver. I want to clean tiles. I don't think too many people do that, all right? But what people are interested in is owning their own business and working, to their own time, their own hours, and earning a certain amount of income, which was considerably more than what they might be getting at the moment. So anyway, I said, look, do you want to just move out of the way? And he said, yes, please. I said, you completely screw that up. Let me fix it for you. And so what we did with the Facebook ads, and in towns, where you could buy radio ads for cheap, for example, Lismore in New South Wales, I can get a 30-second radio ad for $22. So this business is about the new age media, as in, social media, just wiping out the old age media. That's rubbish. I'm not saying it hasn't had a dramatic effect and will continue to do so, but goodness me, if you are in regional areas whereby, still a lot of people wake up to the radio station each morning, then you're crazy if you don't consider local TV and local radio, because you can get it cost effectively, and if you do it properly, then it can be, as powerful as online media. In the big cities, it might be a different story, okay? But anyway, look, the fact is that on radio and on Facebook, we came out and said, listen, do you sometimes just wish that, you could just leave your job and be your own boss? And stop working for someone and making them money and start working for yourself and making money. Now, by the way, what employee has never thought like that? I mean, every employee just at one time or another, I won't say hates their boss, but is a bit disenchanted with their job and their boss and thinks, oh God, I could do this so much better. So anyway, when we did that, are you one of those people? Then you might like to go to sackyourboss.com, which of course you would vocal that on radio, but on Facebook you just got a link. So go to sackyourboss.com, so that gets their attention, and register for our event coming up on Wednesday night at Dubbo RSL Club, just between 6 and 8 o'clock. We're going to shout you dinner. It's a tapas evening dinner, and we're just going to show you there's an incredible opportunity for you to be your own boss, for you to work 4 days a week, earn up to $220,000, because some of our people are doing that, and own your own business. Never have to be answering to a boss again. Guess what? They had to bring more chairs into the room. We never mentioned anything about cleaning tiles. We never mentioned anything about, the fact that you're going to be on your knees for half the day, with knee pads and scrubbing the floors. That is something that you would keep until people got there. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, if you're working for someone and you don't like working for someone, you're sick of getting wages, you're going to probably have your radar out pretty wide about what sort of alternative income opportunities are going to be for you. Whereas if you just say, look, I've come along to Tile Rescue's information evening, we're going to show you how to buy a Tile Rescue franchise for $35,000 so that you can then clean tiles for the rest of your life, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to go, oh God, that's not for me. But if you've got prospects in the room, you've just got 75% of the battle done, because when they're in the room, you can tell them how, okay, look, it's not standing in front of a camera like Tom Cruise and Hugh Jackman and getting millions of dollars being paid to do that. It's certainly not sitting in a spa bath all day and people just throw money at you. Yes, it is a bit of work, okay, but so is lawn mowing, and so is building, and so is physiotherapy and everything else. You may not have thought of cleaning tiles before for a living, but guess what? This is really, really simple. We provide you with the entire operational kit. We provide you with the marketing blueprint, if you like. We provide you with all the tools of the trade. We provide you with our branding, and you could grow this so quickly that you might not even be on the tools very long. You probably have people working for you in your franchise. So you can sexy it up and make it really quite compelling, but guess what? All of that is absolutely of no value if you've got no one in the room. And anyway, he came back to me after a month of running my campaign, not his, and doing it properly, and his head was spinning. He just said, oh my God, this is incredible. He said, just in a country town where only needs one franchise, he would have somewhere between 20 and 40 people in the room, and it would be gone by the time, he got halfway through his spiel, because he only needed one. And of course, you can imagine the pressure on the people in the room when they see how good this is. They're to the back of the room, giving the details as an expression of interest before, he's halfway through. There was a company on board. I was only telling this story last week to another cleaning company who asked me the question. When was it? Probably 3 years ago, I think it was. A guy called Damien, lovely guy. He owns a franchise business called Urban Clean. And he was wanting to sell franchises. By the way, I'm talking about franchises, but it doesn't matter what business you're in, still consider holding events, okay? And this particular guy, he was looking for people who were mum and dad cleaners. Normally, a lot of the cleaning industry in Australia are people from overseas, so Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese, a lot of these Indian, Pakistani, a lot of these people come into Australia as immigrants, and they've got great qualifications in other industries, but unfortunately they may not be recognised here in Australia. So they tend to drive a cab or they become a cleaner, okay? And so he said the thing is they're not benefiting from, the sophisticated operational and marketing procedures that Urban Cleaning can offer them. And I said to him and his business partner, they were two great guys, I just said, look, events, more events. And anyway, they just didn't listen. They just trundled along, and they followed some of my other stuff that I put in the marketing plan for them, but they didn't do the events. And I was only watching the video testimonial that they kindly gave me at one of my 2-day events, like the one we're running tomorrow and Saturday. And they stood up and they said to everyone in the room, they got a standing ovation. They said, listen, JD can be such a dickhead sometimes, and he can be such a dog with a bone. If he comes up with something for your business, he just goes on and on and on about it, which, look, I felt shattered because I'm just so sensitive. No, I didn't. And they said, listen, it took us like 3 or 4 months to go, oh, bugger it, we'll do it. And that's what we did. We actually put out the All Points Bulletin and invited these people, mum and dads who own their own cleaning business, to actually come to, an evening tapas dinner. And he said we ended up getting something like, I think it was a dozen or so people, because it was short notice. They only decided to promote the damn thing a few days out. And they got a dozen or so people. Wait for this. If I had a drum roll, let's see if I can do a sound effect. See if you can hang in there for this. Okay, pretty bad drum roll. Ringo would not be happy with me, but he said that out of those dozen or so people in the room, they got $600,000 worth of expressions of interest. Okay, so in other words, these people who are sitting there watching the franchise opportunity, how they could pick up their mum and dad cleaning business and be part of Urban Clean's franchise group for anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000 the franchises were, because it differed from different areas that had bigger number of homes and all this sort of stuff. But they signed the form as an expression of interest, and they got over $600,000 in the one night, in 2 hours, between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Can you believe that? Now, I don't know what the close rate was because they were saying at that time that had just happened. But I think from memory they were talking about 1 in 2. I think they had about a 50% close rate. If someone fills in the expression of interest, and then you have to go and get finance sometimes to buy the franchise and all this sort of stuff. So if it was a 1 in 2, okay, that's 300 grand in 2 hours. Not bad, eh? Another one recently, a travel company, and this particular travel, and this really recently, this was like only 2 months ago. This travel company is looking for seniors. Okay, so they're looking for people who are in their pensioner age group who have either divorced or lost their partner, and they'd love to travel overseas, but they don't like to go alone. And so I said, okay, and predominantly women, who might be, in their 70s and 80s. And anyways, it's turned out they said, look, how do we get to them? And what they were doing is putting little ads in the, seniors magazines and things like that. They go overseas with bus tours throughout Europe and the river cruises throughout America and Europe, all that sort of stuff. And I said, high tea. Now, for those of you who've been around my environment for a while, probably won't come as a surprise that I'm a bit of a fan of high tea, not because I love cream and scones and jam, although I do, but because you will have women stepping over broken glass. They will be selling their firstborn child to get to a high tea. That's what happens, okay? 2 words to attract women, high and tea. Men, beer and sex, okay? But for women, high and tea. And so anyway, the particular travel agent I'm speaking of, lovely people, all females. There's half a dozen females in the business, so therefore I thought they'd be a big yes, like straight away. If you say high tea to a guy, particularly if it's a blokey guy like me, I think they're going to go, I don't think so. I've never had a scone and jam and cream. We're not holding high tea. But for women, generally, it's an easy sell on my part, if that's part of my, part of my recommendation to them. And as it's turned out, I couldn't believe it. I got pushback. I got pushback. They said, oh, yeah, I don't know about that. I went, it's a high tea. Women will come to it, particularly women in your age group who have come through the whole, country practice style upbringing whereby you just went to high teas every now and again, or maybe you had them at home. And anyway, I was water on a rock. As you know, if you've been in my environment for a while, if I think I've got a good idea, and there's no guarantees, I'm not saying everything that comes out of my mouth is going to be an absolute guaranteed game changer, but if I think something's got a real good chance of working, and you say, oh yeah, I'll sit on the fence for a while, you'll find that there's a probability that I'll be the squeaky door. Just do it, just test it. And to test one of these things, relatively speaking, I mean, the expense wasn't that much. You hire a function room, you put some Facebook ads on, you still advertise maybe in the seniors newspaper, and if you get 7 people turn up, well, good chance you might break even if you sell 1 of the $5,000 overseas tour trips, right? Anyway, so what happened? Incredible. Absolutely incredible. They held 1 or 2, I think it was, in the Sunshine Coast, 1 in Brisbane, and 1 on the Gold Coast. And they invited me to come along to the Gold Coast one, which I ended up doing a Facebook Live, like one of these, from the room, because guess what? It was one of those showrooms in a club that had tiered levels that, if you're watching a show, then, if Pink was on, not that she would be on at the Nerang RSL Club or wherever this was, Miami RSL I think it was, but the tiered levels, almost like the old days when you go to a club and watch Johnny O'Keefe if you're my age group, then it fits a lot of people in a tiered sort of seating format. 111 women, I think it was 100 and something, I think it was 111 women crammed into this place, okay, and eager to hear all about the overseas holidays that this particular tour company promoted. They're guided tours, whereby if they're on a bus, they've got a guided tour. If they're on a European river cruise, they've got a tour guide and all this sort of stuff. They gave a presentation, which was okay. I think the presentation, I could certainly add a lot of horsepower to, because it was just slides and pictures of the locations rather than video of people having a good time. So I've spoken to them about that and zipping up the presentation with more people involved in it, and comments about, oh, it's the most wonderful river cruise I've ever been on, it's fantastic. Anyway, so for what I think was probably a presentation that could have done with more wow, it just went nuts. And the owner of the business said to me that their close rate was 24%. 24%, which meant that if you had 100 people in the room, 24 of them were buying your $5,000 tour package, okay, or whatever the thing is. Some of them, 4 or 5,000. Some of them are 8 or 9 or 10,000. So can you imagine if you had 100 people in the room and 24 of those bought your travel package, which was somewhere between maybe $4,000 and $10,000. That's been a pretty good morning for high tea. And that's what they would do. They'd hold the high tea around about 11 a.m. People would seat, the scones and cream would come out. People would sit. The scones and jam and cream would come out. And then maybe 3/4 of an hour into it, they would do their little 40-minute spiel, and then of course they'd have all of the people selling, from their staff would have a table where people would come up and buy. Now there's a special offer that day. If you're going to hold any event, whether it's a tapas dinner, whether it's a high tea, whatever it may be, you have to have a special offer that day. If you don't, then don't bother doing it, because the whole idea is that when they're there, you've captured them. Okay, you've got basically, it's a mousetrap. Let's be very clear about that. It's a mousetrap, but not in the way that you would have remembered the traditional seminars, and even now most of the seminars do, and that is they practically lock the door and force you to consider running to the back of the room for the steak knives. Now, I don't do that. So I think that's rubbish, and I think that's dated, and I think it's rude. I just think what you need to do is showcase whatever your products or services or opportunity for these people are, and then you just simply say to them, listen, tonight, you're going to get a special bonus, and that special bonus will be blump, but only tonight. If you go home and you want to talk to your husband or wife about it and come back in 2 or 3 days' time, well, you'll pay the rack rate. But if you actually make a decision tonight, we're going to give you this, and we're going to bonus you up with this, then you just watch what happens, okay? It's bees to the honey pot. A high tea or an evening tapas event can bring bees to the honey pot, and you are crazy if you don't consider doing this. My event tomorrow, of course, because it's a members event, is not the traditional sort of thing I'm talking about here. But if we want to make more money at any time, and if we've had a couple of people drop out of our club because they've come to the end of their tenure, then we'll fill those spots simply by having normally an event. I'm doing more of this these days. I mean, this is a closed group at the moment to our members, but I've become a Facebook whore, a Facebook Live whore. Someone said to me the other day, because they see my ugly mug on Facebook Live pretty often, and I'm doing it not because I want to be out there on social media telling everyone what I had for breakfast and where we're going on holidays and look at me. It's not that. I mean, a lot of people use social media, in fact most of them, for that reason. I use mine because it's a money machine. It is a money machine if you get this right. Why? Because you're selling once to many. You are selling once to many. And when I switch on this phone anytime throughout the day and do a Facebook Live, if I'm out on the road, if I'm in the car, if I'm outside of McDonald's and I want to say, look, do you think they're a good marketer? I don't, because, I do. They're a very good marketer, but I think that the marketing manager should be given a bit of a hurry up, because they've got 1.7 million people going through McDonald's today and they don't know who any one of them are. Okay, they don't collect any data. Nor does KFC, nor does Kmart, and nor does Woolworths, and nor does Baker's Delight, or Bunnings. None of these people collect any data, and they wonder why Amazon's coming along to wipe them out. Now, Amazon's not going to wipe out McDonald's or KFC, I understand that, but Bunnings and a lot of the other industries out there that don't collect data, then goodness me, they must be just wearing blinkers, because Amazon has been collecting data since they just sold books, and look what they do with that data. They use what we call behavioural marketing, and they know your buying pattern, and so therefore they know your behaviour. And there's a good chance if they're collecting data to the level that I would collect it, they even know your mother's maiden name and your blood group, and so therefore they're going to be able to market to you in a behavioural fashion, which of course is just incredibly potent. More you know about people, then of course the easier it is to sell to them. So therefore, think about it. I sound like a school teacher, then I'll do that again. So therefore, you think about it. And if you don't, you'll be standing outside the classroom. There's no way in the world that I'm going to let you get away with not holding an event. You have to hold an event within the next month, otherwise we will be making you write on the blackboard 100 times, teacher, headmaster JD, I have to hold an event. How silly I am on a Thursday morning. Listen, I'm excited about the next 2 days, and if you're coming, then really look forward to seeing you here on the Gold Coast. If you can't make it, then we'll be live streaming all of this stuff for the entire 2 days, except lunchtime and morning teas. We'll tell you to go and make your own cup of tea and come back at a certain time. Run through the agenda. Let me tell you what's happening. tomorrow, that's Friday, we have, I'll be kicking off the day and doing an overview and providing, I guess, some tips on the latest stuff that we've been experimenting with, and also be showcasing, like we are just here, some of the wins that some of our members have had, so that that you might like to consider doing similar sort of campaigns for your business. We have James Stedman, one of our copywriters on our Rolodex list, will be doing a session with me, and that'll be for an hour or so. And what he'll be doing is going through the big tips on what you need to consider when you're putting copy together for your Facebook ads or for your Instagram or for your letterbox brochure or your catalogue or whatever it might be, okay? So therefore that should be pretty good, and you're going to have an opportunity not only to learn from his presentation but then to Q&A. I'll be somewhat Ray Martin and I'll be asking questions, but you'll be able to ask questions as well. We have another guy who's one of our members, Joe Zhu, who I affectionately refer to as Smithy, because he's an Asian guy and he's about 100 foot tall. I mean, Asians are not normally like American basketball players, but Joe is about, I don't know, 8 foot, 9 foot, maybe 12 foot. I think he's 100 foot tall, all right? And because he's been around us for a while, he's got a pretty cheeky sense of humour. You don't hang around me unless you have, for the amount of time that he has. And because his surname is an Asian surname, Z-H-O-U, Joe Zhu, I could never pronounce it right. He would say to me, no, it's Zoe. And I go, Zoo. He goes, no, it's not Zoo, it's Zoe. And I go, Zoe. He said, no. So I said, forget it. Smithy. Your name is Smithy. So Smithy, affectionately known as Smithy, he'll be actually giving us a rundown on stuff that he's got into these days, and that is developing apps for businesses. And it's not for every business, but certainly might be something you might like to think about. And a lot of people run the other way at 1,000,000 miles an hour when we talk about apps because they know how expensive they are. Well, guess what? Smithy is going to show you how to create an app for your business that's not that expensive. And he's been able to put together an overseas team who can do this sort of stuff for a much more cost-effective rate than what you would normally. And he'll also be talking about some other online marketing stuff that he's been able to stumble across and trick up and give access to you. So therefore, if you're looking for more traffic to your website, to your landing page, and just generally you want to increase your know-how of what the latest and greatest is online, then I think you might like to listen to what he's got to say. We have in the afternoon tomorrow, Mad Dog, that's D-A-W-G. Okay, I thought I was cool a couple of years ago because I kept on calling everyone Mad Dog because I picked it up from a younger person. And when I was spelling it, typing it, hey, Mad Dog, whoever, they came back and said, old fart, it's not D-O-G, it's Mad Dog, so it's D-A-W-G. I have to tell you that so you know that I'm modern and I'm hip. So Mad Dog, Mitch Gibson. Who the daylights is Mitch Gibson? Well, Mitch Gibson owns his digital marketing agency in Sydney. And he will be presenting to us what you should be doing to get the best value out of your Facebook, Instagram ads, what you should be doing if you're considering AdWords. And he'll be showing you, I guess, the behind the scenes sort of stuff that you need to know about Facebook. And we all know that they're changing their algorithms, they're changing the rules every day. I mean, gosh, it was only last week that Instagram decided not to show likes anymore, and that's a real game changer. The jury's out on that one. It's going to be interesting whether or not they take a deep breath and just hang in there with that decision, but they've upset a lot of people because Instagram decided not to show likes. Anyway, so therefore he's up to speed with all the latest and greatest because he's dealing with Facebook all the time and other social media, and so that'll be I think a real gripping session. And then on the Saturday, drum roll, I should be doing it. Let me see who's on here. Let me see, Tanya, how are you? So on the Saturday, it will be a good start to the morning because we have John Formica, who's a good mate of mine, live from Charlotte on the big screen, Charlotte being in the US. And John was involved in running Walt Disney Resorts for about 10 years in Orlando, Walt Disney World. And if you've been to one of my things before and you've seen John, you know that he's just dynamite. He is unbelievable at helping people understand how to deliver extraordinary, knock your socks off, unbelievable customer experiences, not customer service. And what John and Disney believe, and Apple believe this as well, by the way. And the only reason I say Disney and Apple, there's not many people these days give customer service. It's all gone. It's all freaking gone. You can walk into McDonald's now, no one cares about you, they just tell you to go to that bloody computer or touch screen and order your food yourself. You cannot get anyone at an airport to help you these days. I mean, you think about it. I caught a plane to Sydney the other day, and thank God I'm a member of that Virgin Velocity program because I travel so often. So I still get the red carpet service. But I'll tell you what, if you're not a member of that program, you try getting any service out of the likes of Jetstar or Qantas or any of the other airlines. It's self-serve. You've got to it's a wonder, they get you to, wrap up your bag and basically put the tag on it, put it on the, conveyor belt and off you go. It's a wonder they don't get you to fly the plane. I'm waiting for you to get up the stairs and get into the plane, and not a hostess. With the days of hostesses will be gone too. There will be just, I don't know, a hologram, or there'll be a computer there that will say, oh, thank you for coming. You will be flying the plane for takeoff. And after you finish your little 10-minute spiel, person sitting in seat number 3F will be taking over control of the plane for the rest of the way to Brisbane. It's just got nuts. You can't go to Woolworths have conned us into working for them. So has Coles. Can you remember the days that you actually got service at some business? You go to Woolworths these days, particularly if it's after like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, then you will be lucky to see any checkouts open whatsoever. I don't even know why they bother having the checkouts now. You've got to go through the damn self-serve thing. And of course, what will happen if you're like me, Mr. Unlucky, is that you put your, whatever it is, the cornflakes or something, in the wrong section of that little tray that they have beside the zipper, and it will go come up on the screen, danger, danger, Will Robinson, you have put something, a foreign item in the wrong spot. And get it? Can you ever fix it? No, you've got to call the one sole staff member from the back of the store to come and help. It's just nuts. And so what John Formica will be showing you on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock is how to run your business like Disney. Okay, it's titled If Disney Ran Your Business, What Would It Look Like? And he's going to show you the unbelievable knockout procedures and systems that they have at Disney to make sure that it's never automated like this. Okay, Disney believe in incredible customer service, and so does Apple. And it's no surprise that Steve Jobs, of course, was a board member of both of those companies. So yeah, hold on to your seats. If you're looking for ways to blow your customers away or blow your prospects away, then you're going to be pretty impressed with what John Formica has to say on Saturday morning after 10 o'clock. He's coming in on the big screen on Skype. So if you're watching this from home, then we'll make sure the camera's up close on the big screen so you can suck up all that those pearls of wisdom. And then what we'll do on Saturday, we'll have Laird Marshall speaking with me as well on list broking, okay? And if you don't know what a list broker does, then he provides you with lists of any industry, any particular consumer type that you're after. So if you want a list of anyone who's bought anything off Danos Direct on morning TV, he can give you that list for about $300 per thousand, okay? If you're after accountants in the Western Sydney, then he'll give you that list. And you just rent that list for a few $100s a thousand. That differs between $200, $300, $400 a thousand, depending upon the industry. But if you if someone like me, okay, and you're after businesses doing a certain turnover that are in a certain industry segment. So, for example, I want to sell my services, for argument's sake, to medical centres, and I only want to do that in North Queensland. I can rent a list of him of all the contact details of medical centres in North Queensland. Most of these are what I call it, snail mail addresses and titles and phone numbers, but there's a good number of industries too that he can provide you with their email addresses. And I'm not talking about admin at or sales at, because we know that goes nowhere. There are still, when I say still, there are a good number of industries where you can actually rent a mail list because people have given their approval, and you can use that mail list, you can use that list for email. And by the way, if you are coming tomorrow night, we normally go out and we have dinner tomorrow night, so therefore we finish up later in the afternoon, and then in the evening we go out and have a bite to eat. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, and hopefully you will enjoy that. And if you can't make it tomorrow and Saturday, you'll be watching on Facebook Live. So what we're doing is, because you've got a full 2 days to ask me any questions you like, because you can just type in the questions as you could here, then you just go nuts, just ask questions throughout the day. I'll have someone, basically running the Facebook Live stuff. We've got a couple of cameras, and they'll just simply pass on your questions to me throughout the morning or afternoon. Hence the reason we're not going to have a teleconference this morning. It just makes no sense because I'm going to be able to answer any questions of yours over the next 2 days. So you've got plenty of time to ask me questions. Okay, guys, I'll leave it at that. So look forward to seeing you at the event if you're coming, and if you're not coming to the event, look forward to hopefully having you join us on Facebook Live. Over and out, guys. All the best. Have a good Thursday.